My childhood best friend teamed up with my new friend to expose my secret sugar baby account and destroy my relationship. I never expected they'd wage a year-long online war against me. I, 18 million, became online friends with Alex, 19F, when we were both around 13 years old. We were just kids at the time, excited to meet new people through online games, group chats, and social media. Neither of us could have imagined the kind of emotional whirlwind we'd eventually get tangled in. At 13, it was just casual conversations about school, our families, random jokes, and the drama we had with the friends we saw every day. Our friendship was unique because we lived far apart, yet we found solace in having someone, even a stranger behind a screen, who would listen to every detail of our teenage ups and downs. Over the years, we became best friends. We trusted each other with secrets and confessions that, in retrospect, would have made many people question our maturity, but it seemed natural to us at the time. I always saw Alex as someone impulsive, spontaneous in ways that often led her into trouble. She never denied this about herself. If she felt something strongly, she'd leap before thinking. Sometimes I'd find myself on the receiving end of her late-night messages, frantic and emotional, because something had blown up at school or at home. I'd do my best to calm her down, but I was also just a kid, as clueless as she was. There were moments when I wondered if the intensity of our friendship was too much, yet I kept talking to her because, for all her wild impulses, she was also deeply caring. She had a softness that emerged in quiet hours of conversation, a gentleness that often hid behind the more dramatic parts of her personality. When I was about 13 and a half, I began to hear about Nadia, 17F. Nadia and Alex had known each other for years in real life. They'd grown up in the same neighborhood. I learned that they were childhood best friends, the kind who shared each other's birthdays, walked to each other's houses in the summer when there was nothing to do, spent hours binge-watching shows. Nadia was typically shy, soft-spoken, and sometimes withdrawn. She gave off an energy that felt calm, especially in contrast to Alex's constant waves of emotion. Alex would tell me about the silly arguments they had, how they made up the next day, and how Nadia's quietness balanced out Alex's occasional chaos. At first, I only knew Nadia as an occasional presence in the background of my calls with Alex. Sometimes I'd hear Nadia's laugh in the distance, or see her on screen when Alex would spin the phone camera around to show me something silly they were doing. Nadia never seemed to be a problem. She was more like a reliable anchor for Alex. They rarely had huge fights, so I never heard about any catastrophic drama between them. Nadia was simply the real-world best friend, while I was the online best friend. For years, the dynamic made sense. But all of that changed about a year ago, when Gemma, 18F, arrived in Alex's life. At first, Gemma was just a name Alex mentioned casually. "I've got this new friend, Gemma," she told me. "She's fun, she's wild in the best way, but I'm not sure if you'd like her." I remember being curious. Alex described Gemma as someone with a spunky fashion sense and a rebellious streak, someone who didn't flinch at the thought of skipping class or talking back to authority figures. Alex said Gemma felt like a kindred spirit in certain ways, like she finally had a partner in crime, an equal in terms of boldness and risk-taking. I had no reason to dislike Gemma. I was mostly neutral. I didn't know her beyond a few mentions. Alex, seeing Nadia struggling with social anxiety and wanting her to form new connections, decided to introduce Nadia and Gemma. It felt like a considerate move on Alex's part. In her mind, perhaps Gemma's boldness could help Nadia come out of her shell. Then they could all hang out together, two of Alex's worlds colliding. But that collision was cataclysmic. From the start, Nadia and Gemma did not click. Nadia found Gemma's brashness intimidating. Gemma thought Nadia was weird, too quiet, too soft, as she put it. Instead of backing off and respecting their personalities, Alex tried to push them into a friendship. She believed it was a matter of time before they found common ground. She had always pictured the three of them cruising around on weekends, going for coffee or watching movies at home, her two closest friends forming a strong bond. A piece of context about Alex's life is important here. She was, and to a degree still is, prone to impulsive decisions when she feels any strong emotion, be it excitement, anger, love, or fear. Many times, she'd recognize this impulsivity as a problem, but in the moment, it was like a wave she couldn't stop. She'd ride it, and only afterward would she face the consequences. This was about to become a big theme in the situation with Gemma and Nadia. Gemma had her own toxic streak. She was fun, spontaneous, and fearless, but there was a darker side. She was unafraid to push ethical boundaries if it meant getting what she wanted or if it promised excitement. It seemed that when Alex and Gemma were together, they amplified each other's more destructive impulses. From my vantage point far away, I'd receive frantic messages from Alex about another impulsive idea, or I'd hear about them sneaking into places they shouldn't be after midnight. It was clear they were feeding off each other's rebelliousness, turning it into a mutual adrenaline rush. The situation that sparked much of the drama was this. One night, while hanging out, Gemma and Alex decided to set up an account on a website for sugar babies. It was obvious that what they were doing was questionable. Alex had a boyfriend at the time, and this move was clearly crossing a line. She knew it, Gemma knew it, yet they did it anyway. Whether they saw it as a thrill, a money-making scheme, or a joke, I can't say. But it was the beginning of a series of poor decisions that would haunt Alex. The next day, Alex's mother found the messages exchanged with these so-called sugar daddies. Alex's mother, who, from what I've been told, had a long history of being toxic and manipulative in her own right, took it upon herself to send these messages to Alex's boyfriend. When confronted by her boyfriend, Alex panicked. She used the explanation her mother had offered, that Gemma had manipulated or pressured her into making the account. It wasn't true. Alex had participated willingly, but in that desperate moment she wanted to save her relationship. That's all she could think about. The humiliation of being caught, the rage she expected from her boyfriend, and the heartbreak she feared. She let the lie stand, letting her boyfriend assume that Gemma was the true culprit. It was a huge betrayal toward Gemma, and it was an undeniably impulsive and dishonest act. Gemma obviously felt betrayed by this. Being pinned as the ringleader, the manipulator, was far from what had actually happened. If anything, she and Alex had come up with the idea together. This bit of deceit gave Gemma leverage over Alex. She now had something she could hold against her friend, and she would wield it in the days and weeks to come. Meanwhile, Nadia was there in the background, unaware of the sugar baby fiasco at first, but beginning to witness the fractures forming. She found herself in the middle of tension she didn't fully understand. Around this time, Nadia and Gemma happened to spend some time together, often facilitated by Alex's mother of all people. That woman actively fanned the flames. She was the type who loved to stir trouble for reasons I still can't comprehend. Perhaps it was her own need for control or a desire for drama in her household. She started telling Nadia and Gemma bizarre stories about Alex's past, claiming she had proof of certain traumas that never actually happened, or denying events that did happen, flipping the narrative in ways that left Nadia and Gemma suspicious about Alex. The more the mother talked, the more Nadia and Gemma bonded. In those conversations, they found common ground, which is what Alex had always wanted, but not like this. Alex was left on the outside, reeling from tension with her boyfriend, reeling from her mother's interference and forced to watch her two friends, who didn't even like each other at first, become closer. Desperate for some sense of stability, Alex tried to salvage her relationship with her boyfriend. For a brief moment, she succeeded. He was angry and hurt, but she convinced him with the partial lie about Gemma to forgive her. Yet the relief was short-lived. All the while, Nadia and Gemma were growing close, and Nadia was pulling away from Alex, canceling plans and leaving mid-sleepover to hang out with Gemma instead. Alex felt abandoned in her own home. She'd planned a sleepover with Nadia, only to watch Nadia go off with Gemma, then not return. All of this felt like a huge rejection. Hurt and angered, Alex lashed out. She sent Nadia a message telling her she didn't want to be friends anymore, that Nadia could keep Gemma. It was impulsive, a text fueled by emotion. Alex regretted it almost instant, but there was no taking it back. Nadia felt blindsided by the abruptness, and Gemma, already harboring anger toward Alex for selling her out, jumped at the opportunity to retaliate. Together, Nadia and Gemma contacted Alex's boyfriend again. This time, they showed him clear proof that Alex had willingly messaged the sugar daddies. It wasn't a case of Gemma forcing her to do anything. Confronted with the truth, the boyfriend ended things definitively. The relationship was over. It was a confusing time for everyone, but especially Alex. She had lost her boyfriend, Nadia was drifting toward Gemma, and she herself had admitted to a reckless and hurtful lie. The guilt weighed on, but she also felt furious at both Gemma and Nadia. She decided to cut them off completely, and for a while she successfully avoided them. Nadia and Gemma, though, were still in each other's orbit, finding comfort in their shared grievances about Alex. It was almost like the negative energy from their heartbreak, anger, and sense of betrayal fueled their new bond. They had more and more reasons to spend time together. Now they had secrets to share, stories to swap, righteous indignation to bond over. But the drama didn't end. Even though Alex wanted to wash her hands of the situation, Gemma and Nadia would keep texting or calling Alex from fake numbers, launching into diatribes about all the reasons they didn't like her. Sometimes these messages came in the middle of the night. Alex would block the number, only to have another random one pop up. The arguments escalated, turned into petty name-calling, guilt-tripping, references to secrets from the past. Then one or the other would block or hang up, only for the cycle to continue a few days later. Meanwhile, Alex made a major decision. She was going into a program intended to help her turn her life around. She saw it as an opportunity for genuine escape from all the chaos. She'd have no contact with anyone besides her mother, and that contact would be infrequent. She hoped it would be a clean break. 5 months away, time to refocus, to find clarity, to get her mental health back on track, and to come back with less baggage. She viewed it as a chance for a fresh start. That's where I come in, much more than I ever wanted. For years, I'd been the distant friend, the one who heard daily updates but rarely interacted with the people in Alex's real life. Nadia knew me, of course, because Alex had talked about me for years. Nadia and I had exchanged a few words here and there. Gemma, though, I barely knew. I remembered only one instance where I'd been on FaceTime with Alex while Gemma was present. She smiled and gave a quick, "Hi," but that was it. I had never expected her to reach out, or for me to become a central character in this story. But reach out she did. One day, out of the blue, Gemma messaged, or perhaps I messaged her. My memory on who initiated contact is fuzzy. If I did message her first, it would have been on Alex's behalf, asking that the fighting stop or something along those lines. But I recall the conversation quickly spiraled into her telling me all sorts of stories about her friendship with Alex. I didn't believe any of it at first because it directly contradicted the version of Alex I knew. Then Nadia joined in. They told me that a lot of the things I believed about Alex were lies. Nadia insisted that she had known Alex longer than anyone else, that I was being tricked or manipulated. In fairness, I was aware that Alex had been dishonest before, especially about smaller things. She'd lied or exaggerated in the past, so part of me was uneasy. If Nadia was backing these accusations, did that mean there was some truth to them? I felt like I was in a tornado of conflicting stories. I had no direct contact with Alex to ask her side. She was in that program with no phone, no way to speak. All I could do was listen to Gemma and Nadia, part of me searching for some kernel of truth in what they were saying. They told me Alex's stories of childhood abuse were fabricated. They claimed the evidence she'd shown me was staged, that she'd used editing software to make pictures look a certain way. They even told me she'd been abusive to other people in her life and had lied about all sorts of mundane things, like paying for gas or helping with rent. They made it sound like Alex was this cunning mastermind who manipulated everyone around her, that she was this master liar who thrived on deceiving friends, family, and partners. Part of me thought it was absurd. The Alex I had come to know, especially over the past 2 years, had shown so much growth. Yes, she was impulsive, but I rarely saw a manipulative side. She was messy but genuine, prone to short bursts of bad judgment, but usually quick to apologize. But my mind kept whispering, what if they're right? What if everything she's told you has been a lie? I felt guilty, uncertain, and stuck between loyalty to Alex and the possibility that I had been in the dark for years. This tension inside me, the desire to find out the truth, drove me to keep talking to Gemma and Nadia. Every day, they'd text or FaceTime, sometimes sending more evidence, sometimes just ranting. When I didn't push back enough, they seemed to interpret it as me taking their side. They probably thought I was sick of Alex, that I was ready to align with them. But in reality, I just wanted clarity. My conflict was that I didn't want to betray Alex if these stories were false. Yet I also feared being a fool if these stories were true. As the weeks passed, these calls took a darker turn. I began noticing self-destructive behaviors in Gemma and Nadia. They casually showed me unhealthy coping mechanisms during video calls, like it was nothing unusual. They almost seemed proud or unashamed, as if flaunting rebellious acts or harmful habits was part of their identity. At times, it felt like they were daring me to join in, to prove my loyalty or solidarity. I was baffled. On one hand, they were talking about Alex being manipulative and toxic, and on the other, they were openly displaying and encouraging behavior that was alarmingly destructive. It disturbed. If Alex had been there to see it, she would have been heartbroken. Nadia in particular had always been the quieter, the one who was more sensitive and not prone to risk-taking. Yet here she was, mirroring Gemma's old vices. In the midst of it, I felt like I was betraying Alex simply by witnessing all of this and not telling her. But I had no way to reach Alex. She was locked in that program, trying to put her life back together, and I couldn't do anything but wait. I was torn between a sense of loyalty and a burning curiosity. Every day, my phone buzzed with messages or calls from Gemma and Nadia, each new conversation a swirl of accusations, confessions, and strange bonding moments. They fed me a narrative that Alex had been toxic for both of them, that they were trying to free themselves from her influence, that they were warning me out of kindness. Sometimes it was delivered in a seemingly heartfelt way, like they were worried for me. Other times it was spiced with anger and bitterness. I think they were uncertain how to handle me, whether I was an ally or an enemy. 5 months passed. Finally, I got a phone call from Alex. She was out of the program and back home. I remember seeing her name flash on my screen, my heart pounding as I answered. The moment I heard her voice, something inside me settled. Like the illusions I'd built up from Gemma and Nadia's stories suddenly wavered. Alex sounded genuine, tired, but genuine. The first thing she asked was, how are Gemma and Nadia doing? She had no idea how tangled up I'd been with them. No idea that for months I'd been hearing, seeing, and absorbing all these toxic stories. I couldn't hold it in. I told her everything in a long, frantic rush. The things they'd shown me, the accusations they'd made, the proof they claimed to have. I detailed every vicious rumor, every contradictory statement, every sickening display of self-harm or substance use I'd witnessed on those calls. It all came pouring out. I could hear Alex's breathing get shaky as she listened, and I realized how much it hurt her. She wasn't angry at me for talking to them, at least not in that moment. She was devastated by the thought that Nadia and Gemma had fallen so deeply into destructive habits, and even more gutted by how they had portrayed her to me. The heartbreak in her voice was unmistakable. Nadia was supposed to be her childhood best friend, the one who knew her better than anyone. And Gemma, though their friendship was rocky, had once been a close companion during a turbulent time. Once Alex got over the initial shock, we decided we needed to clear the air. She owed me explanations, if only to restore my faith in her. She combed through every accusation Gemma and Nadia had made. She brought up pictures, screenshots, messages, anything she could find to disprove the worst of their claims. She showed me that her stories of abuse were, in fact, real. She found ways to demonstrate that she hadn't been making it up. She was also honest about her own faults. Yes, she had been toxic at times. Yes, she had lied about the sugar baby account being Gemma's fault. Yes, she'd been a bad friend in some moments. But many of Gemma and Nadia's more extreme stories simply weren't true. Seeing tangible evidence was a relief. It was like a huge weight was lifted from my chest. The Alex I had grown to love, the one who, despite her flaws, had spent the last couple of years trying to better herself, wasn't the monster they had painted. What followed was a flurry of confrontations. Alex and I confronted Nadia and Gemma with screenshots, text messages, and all manner of proof contradicting their claims. They fired back, called us liars, threatened more revelations, then blocked us. Then a few days would pass. Someone would unblock someone else, more heated messages would fly, and the cycle repeated. It went on for weeks. It was chaotic, draining, and emotionally exhausting. We'd all known each other for years in some capacity, so every snarky message carried the sting of deep personal knowledge. It wasn't just random strangers fighting on the internet. It was once close friends dissecting each other's secrets. Then it all quieted down. Alex and I tried to move on with our lives. We spent several months not hearing from Gemma or Nadia. Surprisingly, Nadia and Alex even started to mend their friendship behind the scenes. Nadia seemed to reach out in a calmer, more genuine way, and Alex, who still deeply cared for her childhood friend, was open to reconciliation. They never fully repaired the bond they once had, but they were on the path to something resembling civility. We actually began to hope that the worst was behind us, that everyone had learned a lesson about boundaries and personal growth, that life could continue without the constant cycle of petty spats. But about a month ago, I received a follow request on TikTok from an unfamiliar account. The username used Alex's name, so I assumed it was hers. Maybe a new account? When I checked the profile, I realized it was an account full of photos and short videos of Alex. Some of them were pictures I recognized from times when Gemma had been around. The captions were vicious, mocking Alex for the sugar baby incident, referencing her old relationship, calling her manipulative or lazy or trash in ways that were obviously meant to be humiliating. It felt like each post was designed as an inside joke to degrade Alex, featuring details only someone close to her would know. It didn't take long for me to figure out that Gemma and Nadia were behind it, likely working together. Their style was clear. Gemma had taken the photos, and Nadia, who had an eye for petty wordplay, had probably written the captions. I was furious. Why now? Why open up old wounds? Alex and Nadia had been on the way to rebuilding trust. Why sabotage it like this? There was no logical explanation except a thirst for drama or attention. It felt so cruel, so pointless. I left comments on the videos, demanding they take the posts down, reminding them that this was harassment and could be reported. The account went private soon after. It was an eerie reminder that the drama might never truly die as long as some part of them wanted to keep fueling it. Alex posted her own rebuttal, basically telling them to back off, or at least face her directly. She got no response. Then, everything went silent again, leaving us in a state of high alert, wondering when or if they'd strike again. It's been about a month of quiet now, and Alex and I have resumed normal life as best we can. Still, there's a lingering sense of dread. The knowledge that Gemma and Nadia might pop up at any time with more manufactured drama. When I look back, I'm not sure who's most at fault. Did Alex's impulsiveness and lies about Gemma manipulating her spark everything? Did Gemma's manipulative streak feed off Alex's weaknesses, turning her into an antagonist? Did Nadia, feeling overlooked and wanting new connections, latch onto Gemma in a moment of vulnerability, only to be swept up in a destructive friendship? Did I, by listening to Gemma and Nadia's stories for so long without confronting Alex directly, accidentally encourage them? Perhaps everyone played a role in perpetuating the chaos. I do know that Alex, for all her flaws, tried to take responsibility for her actions, at least eventually. I also know that Nadia and Gemma have kept the bitterness alive long after it served any purpose. It's unclear if they're holding on to legitimate grievances or if they simply enjoy having a mutual enemy. Either way, Alex and I just want out of the cycle. We're tired of opening social media in fear of seeing more insulting posts, of hearing rumors about ourselves floating around. We're exhausted by the emotional roller coaster. If I could give any advice to someone in a similar situation, it would be this. When drama spirals out of control, it's vital to figure out who you trust and to get evidence for yourself, not just from one side. I wish I'd told Gemma and Nadia that I needed proof right away, or that I'd refused to listen to half-baked claims without letting Alex defend herself. But I got caught up in the feeling that maybe they had a good reason. Maybe I was the only one being kept in the dark. Instead, I got pulled deeper and deeper into their vortex. By the time Alex got out of her program, I was borderline convinced she might be someone entirely different than I'd known. It nearly destroyed a close friendship, all based on rumors and half-truths. Alex and I are okay, forging ahead with the hope that we won't have any more out-of-the-blue attacks from Gemma or Nadia. She still misses Nadia sometimes, especially those nostalgic memories of being little kids in each other's houses after school. But Nadia's made choices of her own, and though they had been trying to reconcile, it seems that old habits die hard when Gemma is involved. Maybe one day they'll figure out how to be friends again without all this toxicity. Or maybe they've crossed a line that makes it impossible to repair that childhood bond. In the end, I'm still left with questions. Am I an asshole for letting it go on? For indulging their stories instead of shutting them down? Is Alex the asshole for lying in the first place, throwing Gemma under the bus to her ex-boyfriend? Are Nadia and Gemma the assholes for continuing this drama over a year, posting on TikTok and stirring up trouble? Probably none of us is completely innocent. We've all been complicit at different stages, in different ways. All I can really say is that I'm tired. Alex is tired. We've grown a lot from that initial phase of teenage chaos, and we don't want that negativity anymore. We want to move on. But it's hard when you know that two people out there may still be angry, waiting for a moment to strike again, or turning your photos into cruel jokes on social media. We don't know how to stop them except by continuing to ignore them, hoping they'll run out of steam. There's a lingering sense of inevitability, though. If there's nothing else left to bond Nadia and Gemma, maybe they keep the drama alive just so they can stay close. That's the story. If you look back at it from an outside perspective, it might just seem like a convoluted series of teenage miscommunications, betrayals, and jealousy. But when you're on the inside, feeling that pit in your stomach every time your phone buzzes or you see a new private account with Alex's pictures, it becomes something else, something heavier. I don't know if anyone reading this can give a straightforward judgment about who the single biggest asshole is. Maybe we all are. Maybe we all just got tangled in teenage drama that escalated beyond reason. The only certainty is that the best thing for me and Alex is to leave it in the past. I'm not sure if Nadia and Gemma will ever allow it to be over, but for now, I'm trying my best to block, ignore, and move on. I still think about the time Alex came clean to her boyfriend about the sugar baby account. She told me she'd never been more scared in her life, that the guilt and shame ate her alive. She admitted she'd never do something like that again, that it was a major turning point in realizing how impulsivity could ruin important relationships. She's far from perfect, but I see genuine remorse in her. Meanwhile, Gemma and Nadia have refused to stop stirring trouble. I'm not sure what they gain from it. Maybe it's revenge, maybe it's attention, maybe it's just become a habit. I wish we could all have one big conversation, lay out every screenshot and memory and piece of evidence, and hash it out once and for all. But that's wishful thinking. It's been a year of cyclical, repetitive drama, and every time we think it's over, they create another anonymous profile or send another snide message. Maybe the only real answer is to draw a line and enforce it strictly, no matter how tempting it is to respond when someone insults you, because responding always ignites the fire again, pulling everyone back into the old cycle. I sometimes wonder what these friendships could have been like if the toxic elements were stripped away. If Alex's mother weren't stirring the pot with twisted stories, if Alex had been honest from the start, If Gemma and Alex had never discovered that sugar baby account, or if Gemma had forgiven Alex instead of using it against her, if Nadia had spoken frankly about her hurt feelings rather than drifting off to Gemma in secret. But speculating doesn't change anything. We are where we are. All I can do is learn from it, trust my gut, verify information before drawing conclusions, and never ever get stuck in the middle of other people's destructive cycles if it can be avoided. It's become a long, drawn-out tale of heartbreak, friendship betrayals, manipulations, and too many second chances given or refused. At its core, though, it started with three teenage girls who were each dealing with their own insecurities and drama. It escalated because none of them communicated honestly or respectfully. Add the internet and social media into the mix, plus the meddling mother, and the entire situation became a monster that nobody could control. Today, I'm trying to be hopeful for Alex's future. She's done with her program, working on improving her life day by day. When we talk, we discuss things besides drama. Her goals, my goals, what we want to do in 5 years. She's still impulsive sometimes, but she checks herself more often. She's trying to rebuild trust with new people, but it's hard for her to let anyone get close after what happened with Nadia and Gemma. She still confides in me, and I do my best to give her honest feedback rather than just telling her what she wants to hear. I think we both learned the hard way that glossing over bad behavior or letting lies stand can have catastrophic consequences down the line. I don't know if Nadia and Gemma will ever change, but I secretly hope they do. The memories of them that Alex holds from before all the drama are surprisingly sweet. She tells stories of silly childhood games with Nadia, painting pictures of them running around in the sprinklers, or making half-burnt cookies in the kitchen, or braiding each other's hair during sleepovers. She recalls the early days of meeting Gemma, how they bonded over music tastes, and the thrill of being rebellious teenagers. None of these memories need to be destroyed by this drama if one day they can all move on. But if they choose to keep fueling bitterness, there's nothing more Alex and I can do. We can't force them to stop. We can only hold our boundaries firm. So that's where things stand. I've told the story as fully as I can, with my own perspective woven in. If someone were to assign blame, it would be easy to point fingers at Alex for her initial lies, or at Gemma for encouraging toxic behavior and never letting grudges go, or at Nadia for hurting a childhood friend and participating in endless internet harassment. In truth, there's enough blame to go around. It's a web of mistakes, pain, and immaturity. All I can hope is that time will let everyone grow up and either reconcile or move on for good. For now, Alex and I try to limit our social media presence. We've blocked suspicious accounts, set profiles to private, and talked about what to do if more harassment pops up. Sometimes, late at night, I'll get a pang of anxiety and wonder if a new day will bring fresh drama. I'm determined to stand by Alex, but I've also learned to keep my eyes wide open. Because if anything else, this entire situation has taught me that people can lie or exaggerate or twist the truth in shocking ways, and once trust is broken, it's incredibly hard to regain. Alex broke trust with her boyfriend. Nadia broke trust with Alex. Gemma broke trust with everyone. And I, for a time, broke Alex's trust by engaging with Gemma and Nadia behind her back. Even if I felt it was necessary, I know it hurt Alex deeply when she found out I'd been confiding in them rather than in her. Life goes on, though. School, jobs, responsibilities, new friendships, these things eventually become more important than old dramas. Maybe that's the greatest comfort, that this period of intense chaos is, after all, just a small slice of our lives. We're still young, and we have a lot of time to grow, to reinvent ourselves, to find stable relationships that aren't bogged down by old grudges or manipulative behaviors. If there's any silver lining, it might be that we're learning these lessons about trust, boundaries, and communication at a young age. Maybe that experience will protect us from bigger heartbreak later on. In the end, I'm not sure who the true villain is, or if there even is. It might be that we all played the villain in each other's stories at different times. So yes, in a sense, everyone is the asshole. Or maybe everyone is just human, stumbling through complicated emotions. Either way, all we want now is peace. And if Gemma and Nadia would just let the drama end, if they could resist the temptation to spin up new rumors or post humiliating content on social media, we might all finally get there. Until then, we remain guarded, hoping for the best but prepared for the worst.